Good evening and welcome to the Chicago Westside branch NAACP. We are here this evening with a guest. I am Phyllis Logan, your host. And as always, we are a live TV show. So you feel free to call in with your questions or comments at 312-738-1060. And you are reminded, as always, to get in touch with us at the NAACP office. We know you're going to have phone calls either coming in tonight or coming to our guests later on. But our location is 5820 West Chicago Avenue. Our office number is 773-261-5890. This evening we have, I talked about it briefly last week, that we would have this guest this evening for an event that we have coming up this Friday. Our guest this evening is Bennie Lee. And Mr. Bennie Lee, you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, my name is Bennie Lee. I'm one of the co-founders of NAACP, which is National Alliance for the Empowerment of the Formerly Incarcerated. Also an adjunct professor from Northeastern Illinois University in the Justice Studies Department. And also serve as a community liaison for the prisons in Illinois through TASK as a community liaison for those reentering back into the community from prison, back into the high-risk areas that TASK serves.
And Bennie Lee has been doing some phenomenal jobs, and we appreciate all that he does, and we are always encouraging him to do more. So what we've decided to do, or what we have agreed upon, NAACP and the NAACP are partnering up this Friday on a collaboration on a reentry forum. And we're going to talk about that this evening. The program is this Friday, June 30th, at our office location, 5820 West Chicago Avenue, from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. You don't want to miss any of this. And it's free to the public. So Bennie Lee has invited some reps and some specialists to come out to talk about some programs. So give us some scenario of what Friday will look like.
Well, we want to target those newly released people that need to recognize that there are some incentives in Illinois for them. For example, they need to know that companies can get a tax credit if they hire them as a convicted felon. They qualify for fidelity bonds, meaning they be insured in case they do something, the company won't be held accountable. And really train them how to market themselves as formerly incarcerated and convicted people. But at the same time, to do some network, bring different agencies together so they can start networking, because agencies can't just do everything. There's no one-stop shop in Illinois for people to have criminal backgrounds. So this is the purpose of this forum we're having Friday, so that the formerly incarcerated that are newly released can come and get introduced to some of the vendors that are doing some of the work in the community, such as expungements of records, record sealing, free training for formerly incarcerated and convicted people, even support them in obtaining housing when they run into those different barriers because of their convictions. So it's going to be a day where formerly incarcerated can come face to face with agencies that's doing the work, and at the same time network with each other and share information with each other of some of the things they've learned since they've been home, so that their peers can take advantage of them.
And this is a program, this is a process that we have literally, the NAACP statewide, have ran many programs. The outreach has been as far as Springfield to Mount Vernon, Illinois. We're working on some opportunities out in Kankakee as well as Rockford, Illinois, because we know that the need is there. But in reference to the jobs that you talked about, placing individuals in a job, are you also doing the pre-preparation, resume writing, things of that nature? Do you have any operations like that to provide?
Yeah, now this wouldn't happen Friday when people come, but people will be able to sign up with a specific agency that's present to engage in such. For example, we would have Brother Anthony Lowry from the Safety Foundation. He's the director of their policies. He'll be present there sharing information that they have, some of the services they offer. Members from our organization will have also a table there with our brochures, because we do sit down with people and show them, edit their resumes, show them how to put what we call an explanation letter together versus a cover letter. Pretty much, how do you market yourself as a convicted felon? Some of them don't even know how to put a email account together, or don't have one, but we show them the tools they're going to need to market themselves. So these kind of services we offer, but primarily at NAACP we offer what we call a reentry circle. It's a support group where formerly incarcerated and convicted people can come, and their families can come to get answers from some of the struggles they may be struggling with. At the circle, we have a resource table to connect them with different resources to follow up, say, for example, for CDL training that's free for formerly incarcerated people, or weatherization training, or GED, or how do you begin the process of getting your record pulled or getting your record sealed or expungement. These are the kind of things that happen in the circle, and we have what we call trained reentry coaches. It's like a mentor, but these are formerly incarcerated and convicted people that's been home a minimum of 5 years, that's stable in their own lives, and have broke through some of the barriers that average formerly incarcerated person are faced with upon release, and they coach them through that, and so they won't have to struggle like they did in the beginning of their own reentry process.
And support systems are important, but the other question I didn't hear you mention, this is for male and female.
Right, as well as youth.
Okay,
Male, female, as well as youth, especially with the youth. They're competing against adults that didn't get their lives together, and so these adults are taking up these jobs at the McDonald's and the Burger Kings, and they're getting hired there, and that's kind of limiting opportunities for young people. And then when you got a young person that's got a juvenile record, that's probably currently on juvenile parole or juvenile probation, some of the programs that are there for them, they run into some challenges because of their background. Even some of the schools, once they come out and say Department of Juvenile Justice and they're on juvenile parole, it's hard to even get back in school. You know, so we work with youth too to show them how to navigate and break through some of these barriers that they face with, but at the same time keep them encouraged that, hey, it can happen. You ain't got to just shut down because you run into a barrier. We believe in an African symbol, NGMGM, meaning the ability to endure hardships. Because people have been to jail have dealt with some hardships. So we teach them that you've been through some hardships, you endured it, and don't fall apart now that you're back out on the streets. You have the ability to endure hardships.
That is awesome. And feel free to call in to you out there, our viewers, 312-738-1060. Love to hear any concerns or any ideas or any topics you'd like to hear discussed, or any pre-questions that you may have if you're attending on Friday. And once again, we will be at 5820. Let me put the address up of our office, 5820 West Chicago Avenue. We will be there from 10 a.m. The doors open at 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. All of the information, you can give our office a call at 773-261-5890. But we also want you, Bennie Lee, to give out your number. I don't have your number printed here, so you want to give out your office number or they can contact you?
Well, coincidentally, we're in the same space, the St. Cofer Art and Culture Center, 5820 West Chicago Avenue. Our office is in the same building as the Westside branch of the NAACP. When you come back to their office, you're right next door to our office. And we are there. A number that we can be reached at is 773-593-2540. We have a website you can go on, capital NAEFI mentor.wix.com/NAAFI, NAEFI. That's our website. And our email is blee.naefi@gmail.com.
That's a lot. You got to give out the number again.
Okay, well, the number is 773-593-2540.
So some of the other things that are going on that day as well, we talked about the housing piece. Is there any new policy pieces out there yet for housing?
Well, there's been some progress made at one time, and most people don't realize that when a person come out of prison, they're initially denied going back to public housing. A lot of them probably come from public housing. I mean, because of that conviction, they're not allowed to go back based on the policies. But there has been some headway. Now they got a pilot program where they accept them applications for people that have convictions to go through the process and can seek public housing, even to the point where some people can go through the process and even receive Section 8, whereas one time formerly incarcerated people couldn't receive Section 8. So there's a lot of headway been going on through the efforts of people fighting on the behalf of the formerly incarcerated.
Well, we have a caller. Caller, your question or comment?
Hi, thanks for taking my call. Mr. Lee, the work that you're doing is just really incredible. I wanted to ask, are you working with like the Chicago jails with some kind of legislation or even programs as far as rehabilitation when people are incarcerated as well?
The closest we are working with, as far as the Cook County Jail, is that we give presentation to the probation department, and so the people that are on probation, the probation officers can refer them to us. A lot of our work with those that are coming out of the prison system, so we work closely with parole agents so they can refer people to us that are on parole. And a lot of social agencies that work with formerly incarcerated and convicted people, they will refer people to us too. I do training, nonviolence training for the Institute for Nonviolence Chicago. I go inside the Cook County Jail every Wednesday where there's a volunteer program inside the jail. It's called a SAVE program. And I go in and train guys on how to be nonviolent in a violent environment. And on different occasions, they got drug programs inside the county jail where I come in sometime as a guest speaker to speak to those that are receiving drug treatment while they're in the Cook County Jail. See, there's a difference in the county jail and the prison system. The county jail is the judicial system. You're still in front of a judge. The prison is the penal system. If you violate, you go back to prison, not back in front of a judge. And there's a difference there.
Yeah. Well, we're going to give our address out one more time. Feel free to call our number, 773-261-5890, after this evening if you want to leave a message for us to get over to Mr. Bennie Lee. Like he stated, we're both in the same building. The event will be at 5820 West Chicago Avenue this Friday from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. We welcome all offenders to this program. There's going to be plenty of time to meet with Mr. Bennie Lee, but to also sign up for any special programs or services that he's working directly with. But we also want you to come in and retrieve the information per each of the areas of the spaces that we will be having specialists and representatives speak to you on. The education and training piece, is there anything new with that? I know any new policies out for that. With education, we know that reentry population cannot get federal funds, correct?
Well, that's not been the case. It's never been the case. Formerly incarcerated and convicted people can receive federal assistance for school. It's that at one time, those that were convicted for a drug case while receiving financial aid, they were denied financial aid. But even upon that discharge from prison, if they shown that they went through some type of drug rehab, then that opportunity to receive financial aid can be reinstated. But that was the only restriction when it comes to formerly incarcerated people receiving financial aid. They had to be receiving it and caught a drug case at the time. But even with that, they can show that they've been through drug treatment, show that certificate of completion, and then that can be reinstated where they can seek financial aid.
And that is very good to know, because many times people think that they're just stunted for the rest of their lives, cannot move forward and acquire new training and so forth. Counseling, health and counseling is another area. Are there any new policies or programs out in reference to health?
Well, one thing now, working with the formerly incarcerated population, a lot of people are using what they call a CODA model. That's the counseling of thoughts and action. It's more like a cognitive model to change how formerly incarcerated and convicted people think. One is, how do you see yourself? How do you see yourself functioning in the world? And how you see yourself being able to apply yourself. So it's about that changing how people think about themselves, how they see the world, how they think through things. A lot of formerly incarcerated and convicted people struggle with what you call cognitive dissonance. That means there's a psychological conflict in what you believe, but your actions contradicts it. meaning you don't want to go to prison, but you'll compromise your values just to sell drugs, just to get by, maybe just to get a bus pass, but you're taking that risk to going to prison. So there's an ambivalence there. There's a part of you really want to be successful, but when you run into these barriers, you resort back to what you have confidence in. For example, myself, being a 3-time loser, I had more confidence in my hustling skills than I did in trying to work a job. So when I ran into barriers, it was nothing for me to go back to hustling. So in my reentry process, I had to kill that part of that ambivalence, that part of me that had the confidence of hustling, and grow and strengthen that part of me to work a job, to be a citizen, obey the law. Right? I had to kill that outlaw part of me. So now the citizen part of me is more stronger than the outlaw part of me. And so a lot of it has to do with me thinking through things, looking at the errors in my thinking, because it's my thoughts that lead my actions. So there's a lot of work around how do we change the way formerly incarcerated and convicted people see themselves and see the world and see themselves functioning in the world different.
And we know that all of the training, education that you've received, you're able to pass it on. And I tell you, audience, he has a wonderful mind right now, and he's wanted to on the talking circles throughout the state of Illinois. I've seen him even nationally and on panel discussions, giving his trials and tribulations, but also his objectives to reach better goals. And you're there, so we congratulate him on there, and we're glad that he's a friend of ours. On the expungement, I think this is an area that I always found confusing when the public is invited out to expungement events and then something happens. The population gets there unprepared. I mean, I know we talked about some pre-training skill sets for a person to be prepared. Can you talk about that?
Well, one, when those expungements, something has happened, we need to get better at whoever invite, especially parole agents and probation officers that send people there, or social workers or case managers. They have to be educated themselves to know the difference between expungement, reconciling, and clemency. Yeah. And so if I'm sending a person to an expungement summit, I'm telling them clearly, your cases can't be expunged, but they can be sealed.
Yeah, we're going to get this call. I apologize. We're going to get this caller so they won't have to stay on too long, because that's a long explanation. Caller, your question or comment, and then we'll let him continue.
Yes, great show as always. I watch every week.
Thank you.
I want both his answer. Do you think the new law that just passed about guns, about catching somebody that has a record or is not supposed to have a gun, gets caught again, that he gets more time? Do you think that's right, or do you think it's wrong? Thank you.
Well, it's been proven and research show that deterrents don't work. You know, as a criminal, I don't think about getting caught. I always think I'm going to get away. And then when I do get caught, I always think of a spiel I can give to get out of it. Deterrence never work. I mean, I faced the death penalty at a time. I spent 3 years facing the death penalty. And after coming out of prison, I went right back to the old lifestyle, went back to prison. Deterrence don't work. When it comes to the gun laws, in reference to formerly incarcerated and convicted people, this is when we look at collateral consequences. For example, as a convicted felon, the Second Amendment don't apply to me, meaning I had a right to bear arms. Right. But as a convicted felon, we don't have a right to bear arms. So it goes back to society's coming up with this myth that we've paid our debt to society. If we paid our debt, then why doesn't the Second Amendment apply to us? If I paid my debt, why is it there's over 80 licenses I can't apply for because of my conviction? If I paid my debt, then why can I constantly be discriminated for job opportunities, employment opportunities, housing opportunities? So that thing about I paid my debt is a myth. And this is the fight that we have now. And that comes from the 13th Amendment when it was passed, suggesting that no person of U.S. citizenship should be subject to slavery or indentured servitude unless otherwise convicted of a crime. So that in itself, once you label it as a person with a conviction, then there's no legislation to support you when you deny full citizenship because of that conviction. All right? So those amendments to the Constitution need to be amended. There's need to be a change. The debt need to be put in writing. So when we are discriminated from an old 30-something-year-old case, that we can have grounds to fight that because they're holding that against us. And so this is the fight that we're doing on a national level. You can go on the website. It's Formerly Incarcerated and Convicted People's Movement. This is a national movement that we're part of here in Illinois. We part of Region 5 because it's broke down in regions. Our region is Michigan, Indiana, Illinois, Wisconsin, and Minnesota. And we're fighting to become, those of us that have paid our so-called debt, to become a protective class. That once we're out at a period of time, that we should be treated as regular citizens. Because as it is now, we have limited citizenship.
Right. And that's important. So we've got a few more minutes. Let's go back to the expungement piece. I apologize. If you can get back into that mind thought, please.
And one of the challenges we have, too, and this is why our organization is in existence, because all of our members are formerly incarcerated and convicted people, is to educate even those service providers, the agents. You know, you got guys afraid to allow us to register them to vote because their agent told them that it's against the law for them to vote in Illinois, when that's not the truth. A convicted felon can vote in the state of Illinois. You can vote while you're in the county jail in Illinois. The only time you can't vote is when you're inside a prison. So to raise the awareness of those service providers, those parole agents, probation officers, how do you educate that person that want their record expunged? How to read your rap sheet? What's expungible? The Cabrini Green Legal Aid do a great job. The Safer Foundation do a great job. Dorothy Brown office do a great job raising people awareness of felony cases. You can have multiple felonies in Illinois and have your record sealed. What sealing means is that if you go for a job or housing, the public can't see your record because it's hidden from the public. It's sealed. But if law enforcement pick you up or you go in front of a judge or for a federal job, they can see it. That's what record sealing means. Record expunged means it's wiped off completely, and those are pretty much misdemeanors. If you go to prison, it's for a felony case. You don't go to prison for misdemeanors. You might do some county time or get probation or something like that. But a felony case, you go to prison, those can't be expunged, but they can be sealed, and you can have multiple felonies and have them sealed. They just passed in Springfield now, it's on the governor's desk, that convicted murderers at some point can have their record sealed. Expungement for misdemeanors, it got to be 2 years after the conviction, then you can qualify to get that record expunged. For felonies, it's got to be 4 years after the conviction before you can begin the process of getting your record sealed. And I don't know what time frame they put on for us convicted felons to qualify to get their record sealed. And the reason for that is because when you check that box or whatever, you can be denied employment or interview, even for housing or employment. That's the purpose of having the box banned in Illinois, so that people can get a fair chance at an interview. But it'll come a time during the interview, they say they do background checks. It's just you got to be armed with enough information to educate the potential employer of the incentives that they have if they hire you as a convicted felon.
So we're going to once again give you the overhead. The location for this Friday is 5820 West Chicago Avenue. Please call our office if you want to confirm that you can attend, 773-261-5890. Leave a message there, and we're going to allow Bennie Lee to give your number out again.
My number is 773-593-2540.
We need you to call and register or let us know that you will be able to stop by. That's this Friday, June 30th from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. And the funding for us to be able to host this with the NAACP organization is a courtesy or a contribution from Mariah Foundation. We want to thank them because without them, we would not be able to get the information out that Bennie Lee has to offer to the community, as well as the services that are needed for the reentry population. So we look forward to you guys stopping by on Friday. Doors open at 10 a.m. Stop by and let us see how we can let us know how we can help you. There will be plenty of social service representatives there, as well as specialists. There'll be other organizations. There'll be other individuals who could possibly give, their world-renowned new phase of life examples to you as well. Come on by, network with people, and let's see if we can help you move, at least 10 steps further. So I am Phyllis Logan, your host, and we want to thank you guys for watching our shows the past 3 months. We look forward to the next 3 months later on to come back and bring you more information. We look to see you on Friday, and we want to thank CAN TV for this opportunity. Thank you again.